One of the greatest pieces of news we brought you today is that the military is contributing new aircraft to the effort.
Yeah, absolutely. 10 News military reporter Bob Lawrence is here because you know a lot about this. And people have been speaking with so much gratitude about having these extra military helicopters here to help out.
This was, you can tell I've been in the smoke a little bit, so pardon my voice. There are really three primary aircraft that are now trained to fly up, including the one in the Navy, but we're going to talk about primarily two of them. One is the heavy lift CH-53 helicopter. The other CH-46. This is the CH-53, and what they're attaching here underneath, because military helicopters carry military people and gear, they're attaching a Bambi bucket. That Bambi bucket can carry up to 900 gallons. Now, what you're looking at here is file footage. That is a CH-46. That's the twin rotor. This is why they're able to do that. That's one of the Navy helicopters. This is why they're able to do it. CALFIRE now puts an air boss, if you will, up in the air. They are now trained. After 2007, and even after 2003, there was a huge uproar about why use the military. Why can't we use the military? Well, the fact of the matter is the military flies with the military. They don't necessarily commingle with civilian pilots, and so that was the biggest stumbling block. And then initially, CALFIRE said they had to have an observer on every aircraft. Well, they had them on the National Guard helicopters that were in play during the earlier wildfires. They didn't have enough to go around for every military asset. So now what they've done is CALFIRE puts an air boss up above, and they now fly under that one direction. So they don't need an individual observer on each one. And now every year, they get trained and recertified, because military crews, they go on deployment. Yeah. Their job is the defense of the country. So they go on deployment, and they may not be the ones who are left. So every year, in fact, the last one was just a couple of weeks ago, where they get new pilots, they recertify them, and then they get trained, and someone else is in my ear, but they get trained up again. So the new pilots always get retrained. So to make this available. Now, it's also not an easy thing to use military assets. A lot of protocols have to be done, but that's part of the training process too. How do we expedite these protocols and get them done? As you can see, they're flying today.
How many do we have?
Because there's 22 aircraft that are employed. Now, majority of them are flying on their own fire. Camp Pendleton's got their own worries, but at least a dozen are out in the county and primarily in the San Marcos area. And they, just like the civilian helicopters, the ones with the snorkels, they hover over the lake and the snorkel sucks up the water. Bambi bucket, got to be a little more precise here. They got to get down, they got to fill it up, and then they got to go and take off. But that's what they're doing. So at least a dozen of them that we know of right now are flying on the San Marcos.
There's a big difference between landing on an aircraft carrier or having some special forces rappel down ropes while you hover, 60 feet off the ground, than it is using one of those buckets and scooping up 900 gallons. But
true.
These guys are great pilots.
Well, they're phenomenal pilots. Yeah. That was never in question. That was never in question. In fact, on the CH-53, they do that, and it's called a heavy lift because they'll take Humvees underneath it, or they'll take crates of ammo. They'll do a lot of those things, strap it on underneath, and airlift. And you've seen that at the air show if you've watched the demonstrations, where you'll see a Humvee flying through the air. But those things are, they're cabled on, they're strapped on. This is a little bit different process, but it's the communication between military pilots, their radios and their frequencies, CALFIRE's frequencies. Now all that's been meshed, and that's why they're out there doing what they're doing.
It's Thursday. We're really excited to have the military helicopters today, and you talked about trying to expedite the process. How quickly can they mobilize? That is considered quick.
This is very quick.
How much time do they need from the time that CALFIRE or one of the departments says we need help?
Well, what happens is that certain protocols is that they have to exhaust all the civilian assets that they can first. The other day when we were out at Santa Luz, I saw a Sikorsky Sky Crane helicopter. They carry huge amounts of water. So that we don't have that in San Diego. We have the sheriff's helicopters for sure. We have the two from San Diego Fire, and then they use the U.S. Forest Service. CALFIRE brings in aircraft as well. So one of the protocols is you have to use all the assets. With all the fires we've had, those assets were used up quickly. So that protocol was met, and other protocols get going too. So it's the availability of aircraft. Again, their main mission is the defense of our country. That comes first and foremost. But if they were not being deployed, then the protocol, we ask, and those steps are taken. But you can see how fast they got put into service. We're glad they're there. We can use all the help we can get.